Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Tree number 3, this is a native hornbeam, so you can find these out in the forest in the UK. They're not as common as beeches, and they look very similar until you look closer, and they do grow slightly differently, but nonetheless it's a native tree, so it's perfectly happy out in the garden. And this is the one I'm not doing much with. This tree was in a very poor state when I started to regrow it. It's a very mature tree. This is probably maybe 35, maybe 40 years old. Very mature trunk, you know, I mean, width-wise. Lovely spreading base to it. It's got some form that I didn't do. That had already been shaped when I got it. The only thing that went wrong with this tree before I got it is the hack that they did on the main trunk, which would have been okay and quite nicely disguised because they chose to let a branch grow to extend the trunk and get some taper, but they let it grow straight. That was wrong. That should have curved, that top bit. But once the leaves are out, you can't actually see it. And I've debated ever since I've got this tree what is the front and what is the back. I mean, that is a view, and it's got the same form from both directions, but from this side this is a void. There's next to nothing in it, whereas from the other side there is. So I prefer that view. I mean, don't forget, you can always change. You can always say, well, actually I'm going to make that the front of the tree, but then you've got quite a large branch facing backwards. But that sort of works. It doesn't, you know, sometimes you have to just keep turning and looking. But at the moment that's my accepted view of the tree, which means this is not right and that's not right, because you should they're called poking the eye branches because they point straight at you, which shouldn't really happen. They should always taper one way or the other or backwards, but that's my accepted view. I'm letting this one grow this year, so this is getting nothing more than looking out for crossing branches and things growing into a space that they are not allowed to use. What do I mean by that? Growing from one branch up into another one and filling the space in. If you haven't got the spaces on the bonsai branches, it's not a bonsai tree, it's a bush. Seriously, it's a bush. So it's a matter of just looking for things that are growing wrong, like heading back towards the trunk. No good. But I am letting quite a bit of this grow this year. Just trying to flatten some of these because they're starting to go up and I need them to flatten. So again, anything sticking upwards comes off. In the main, not always. Sometimes I have to let a branch grow to get the sap to come into it. Yeah? If you take it off too soon, it can just die back and then it's lost. So it's better to just let it grow a bit. Now I have here, coming out from the back of the trunk, a new branch. And I'm going to let it fill the gap between these two larger branches. So I'm leaving it at the moment. All I'm going to do is take the end of it off, and then the buds all along the length of that branch will shoot out and then branch again. And that's going to fill this gap in, because although with that branch there it doesn't look very big, it was until that branch grew. Talk about lucky. Now all I need now is for one to do it over here as well. But what I have got is quite a few new branches growing out from the trunk above, between the first and the second branch. They have to come off. They can't grow. They'll just look silly. So those have got to come off. Any little suckers, I always sort of see and try and imagine what they would look like if they were allowed to grow. What would they do to the shape of the tree? And a lot of the time you can just see straight away that they would mess it up. See here, lots of suckers coming out in a place where they can't really be allowed to grow, but I'm not going to cut them all off. I'm going to leave one there and see what that does. And see if it, once it starts to grow, does it improve the look of the tree. This tiny little one here is below the first branch. I'm going to let it grow. Because if it takes off like a little rocket, that could become the first branch and be trained forward. So that I'd have one coming forward and slightly down. That would look nice. But it might not take off, so it might not work. It's a theory, what I have. Not much else. This branch is now extended farther out than this branch. So, sorry mate, you've got to go back. And you're also sticking up in the air. So, that's all for that one. As I said, there isn't much to do on this tree. And the top of the tree at the moment is a bit of a tangled mess. And what I would have loved last year would be for another branch to head almost straight upwards. And it didn't do it. The top went outwards, which in some places would be brilliant. But there I actually wanted to get this tree a bit taller. It's okay how it is. It's not the end of the world. But we don't want great big long bits sticking up in the air like that. Or like that. Or like that. Or heading back into the centre. Crossing branches next. Not many. And not much dieback on this one at all. So this one's getting its energy back. When this was repotted, it nearly died. They're not so easy to hydrate in small pots. That's one of the main differences between hornbeam and beech. The hornbeams tend to grow in damper places because they don't seem to hydrate that well, so they need a lot of stuff underneath them. Anyway, that's that one done. That's one of my three very mature trees. English hornbeam. We'll have another look when it's out in leaf, but that's that one.